Welcome, everybody, to Survive and Advance. On the Grueling Truth Sports Network, Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. If you want to find out more about them, go to our website, click the banner. It'll take you right there. I'm your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome in my co-host, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Having a good day today, Mike. Unlike the NCAA, I think. I'm not sure they're having a great day today after the announcement of all their rules changes yesterday, but I know we're going to dive into that. On a quick note, Tiger is stinking it up at the PGA. He's 3 over after 7 holes. Our intrepid Nanook from the North, Bryce, is keeping me updated. That you'll get a complete story on Monday on the Grueling Truth's new add-on, the golf show, which Bryce will have a full report on the entire tournament. But his partner, Justin Thomas, is lighting up the course, which is considered to be an easy course to play, really, by PGA standards for a major. And Tiger is 3 over after 8 and struggling, the last I've heard. So, all right,
so I gave you homework yesterday. I told you to watch Hard Knocks with the Cleveland Browns. What was your take?
I understand why the Browns are 1-31. It all becomes very clear after watching the first episode of this show. And I'm going to defer to you mostly on this because you are a football coach. This appears to me to be one of the less apt, I don't want to say most inept because I don't see all the stats, but they don't seem to have much of a clue of what's going on and how to fix the problems that the Cleveland Browns have right now. That was my overall take of the show. Now, I get it's the first show, and it's early in camp, but for a team that's 1-31, they don't seem very organized, very motivational, very focused on creating a goal for this team rather than just saying Houston or Cleveland, we have a problem. Your take?
My take is it's Hugh Jackson. When we've done our shows on teams that we're going to turn it around, I told you, it's not going to happen with Hugh Jackson there. And you have to change a culture, and you can't change a culture with the guy that put you 1-31 the last 2 years. And, Hugh Jackson wants to hold players out of training camp practices to prevent them from being hurt. And the thing that stood out to me is I'm not a big Todd Haley fan, but Todd Haley, I think the direct quote was, I have an opinion on that. We need to get so much done. If we live in our fears, our team has to get mentally tougher and be able to fight through the expletive that we've got to fight through. We've got to change this drastically, and if we've got guys that haven't done expletive again, sitting around doing nothing, I just don't know how we're going to do it. Hugh Jackson doesn't evidently like taking advice from someone who has been more successful than him. Haley was successful as a head coach. He was 19-26. I say he's successful because it's a hell of a lot better than 1-31. He's had more success. He's been with a team that has won. Hugh Jackson, for the most part, is not. He was with the Bengals, and his mentality to me looks a lot like Marvin Lewis, only I don't want to make Marvin Lewis look that bad. Marvin Lewis has never been near 1-31 in 32 games. And the thing that stood out to me, I think the most poignant moment of the show is when Jarvis Landry goes into the wide receiver room and bitches them all out for not practicing. And it's one thing if a guy's dinged up to hold him out, but it's another thing to hold him out because you're afraid he might get hurt. It goes back to what I said. This team's going to start off bad. Hugh Jackson's going to get fired. I would say if it's during the season, Todd Haley probably becomes the head coach, which is better, but not that much better. So nothing's changed in Cleveland.
The questions I have is, number one, how does Hugh Jackson at 1-31, with his apparent ineptness, I'm just going to say, keep his job? How does he have some kind of locked-in contract, or how does Cleveland continue to invest in this guy? And you are slamming Marvin Lewis.
Marvin Lewis is Vince Lombardi compared to Hugh Jackson right now.
Exactly. I couldn't say it any better. That's a great analogy, and I know you're a Bengals fan, and I'm a semi-Bengals fan because they're regionally located to Indianapolis. But how does this guy coach in the NFL as a head coach? Seriously, what's he got? Does he have naked photos of the team president or something like that, or what's he got?
Well, the interesting thing about him is he was the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, went 8-8, which I thought he did a really good job at. But in the end, I think Al Davis was still alive. Al Davis fired him. Nobody understood why, and Al Davis did a lot of stupid things when he got towards the end of his life. But maybe this was one of the reasons Al Davis got rid of him. I mean, he's supposed to be a player's coach. To me,
well, he is a player's coach.
No, I don't think he is, because I think this.
Okay, I'll let you finish.
To be a player's coach is not to kiss their ass and baby them. To be a player's coach is to get to know them on a personal level, to care about them, and to have their best interests at heart. If you are telling Duke Johnson, well, you might pull a muscle, so maybe we should hold you out, that doesn't do anything for Duke Johnson. That just keeps Duke Johnson from getting ready for the season, and it probably makes it more likely that Duke Johnson's going to get hurt. So to me, he's not a player's coach. He's a player's friend coach. You know, it's kind of like
where I was going.
Yeah, it's kind of like if your kid is screwing up and you continue to let him do it because you don't want him to be mad at you, that's Hugh Jackson.
That's the first thing I wrote down when I watched this show and was taking notes on it. I watched it again this morning, the second time, just to validate what I got the first time. This guy wants to be the players' friends. I mean, he wants the players to like him. It's almost like he's living in fear of losing his job and doesn't want the players bitching. Well, you can't run an NFL franchise that way and be successful at it.
Yeah, but this is the thing. When you're 1-31, you know you're going to get fired.
Well, then you might as well. You can do two things here. You can play not to win, or play not to lose, or play to win. If I was Hugh Jackson right now, I'd be knocking the hell out of some people and forcing people to dig in. And, I'm going to tell you, we talked about this yesterday to some degree. You made a statement more than I did that you felt Bob Knight was the greatest college basketball coach of all time. I was never Bob Knight's friend. I became his friend 10 years after I graduated playing from him. Okay? It took 10 years for me to even have a social conversation with Bob Knight on something other than what I was doing wrong on a basketball court or what I needed to do to help the team win the game. There was no socialization there between Coach and any of us. Not even Isaiah and Knight socialized. They had deeper intellectual conversations about the game than I probably had with Knight. But I took away, this guy just wants to go out here. I almost felt like he wanted to be a player. He wanted to be a player so he could take a day off.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I felt. That's the first thing I wrote down. This guy wants to be their friend. And that is no way to dig out of a 1-31 hole. I mean, I'm scared now that this is going to be detrimental to Baker Mayfield. And I'm going to tell you what, I fell in love with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield is a big-time NFL quarterback.
He is
and Baker Mayfield, I like Tyrod Taylor, but Baker Mayfield should be starting right away.
Right now,
I don't care if he fails or not, because we had this conversation yesterday off air. I mean, if you look at it in the last 20 years, 90% of the quarterbacks that have succeeded have been guys that had to start right away.
Andrew Luck came right in and jumped right in off the bat.
Andy Dalton for the Bengals. And if you look at the Bengals and you go back to Carson Palmer, they sat Carson Palmer behind John Kitna for a year. That team went 8-8. John Kitna played well, but John Kitna had a tendency to turn the ball over. I still think that if they would have had the balls to play Carson Palmer, Palmer figures it out mid-season. Maybe they win 9 or 10 games and make the playoffs. But my point is this. You're never going to win a Super Bowl with Tyrod Taylor.
No, you're not. No.
So all you're doing right now is what he's doing is the same thing he's doing with Duke Johnson. He is trying to protect Baker Mayfield. And when you look at it, Rex Ryan was really successful in New York his first 3 years, went to a couple AFC championship games. The reason he failed was while going to those championship games with a great defense and a good running game, he overprotected Mark Sanchez and never took the reins off and never let him become a quarterback. And in the end, that cost him his job because after 3 or 4 years, that quarterback knows you have no confidence in him, so he's not going to get any better. And in the end, he's going to flame out, and you're going to go with him because you have nobody to replace him.
Well, the only thing is that coach isn't going to be there to flame out with him because he's going to be gone long before Baker Mayfield's going to be gone.
Hopefully. You would think that, but remember, this is a team that's been 1-31, and he's still got his job.
That befuddles me.
So the question is this. They have a lot more talent. If they win 4 or 5 games, are you going to say, well, we improved a lot from last year, so we're just going to give him another year?
I know. That's the scary part. Incremental wins to them are monumental, and they're going to consider that a success. That team is in disarray. I mean, from top
and I'll tell you this also.
Why would Jarvis Landry go there? Why would
because Jarvis Landry was on a team 2 years ago that went to the playoffs. You know, Todd Haley's been around a team that goes to the playoffs, and I guarantee you this, Adam Gase and Mike Tomlin weren't babying players like they were 3 years old and telling them, well, we got to protect you. Because it's football. You can't protect anybody. You play the game. You get hurt, then you take care of them. But saying Duke Johnson has trouble with pulled hamstrings, and that's why we're not playing him, I mean, come on. That just means Duke Johnson in the first few weeks is going to pull a hamstring.
Well, and I'm drawing a blank right now. Who was the receiver they talked about? It's a really good receiver, but he's missed 42 of 45.
Oh, Josh Gordon.
Yeah, cut the guy. You know, if you're for substance abuse, you're out. You miss 42 of 45 games. I don't care how talented you are. He's a liability. Get rid of him. Cut him. You got to make a statement somewhere.
How about this? Instead of cutting him, when he gets there, hold him accountable for everything that happens. Because this is the thing. Josh Gordon got busted for marijuana. That's the only thing he's ever been busted for. And you got guys there that are probably taking Vicodin, which is worse. Sure. But my thing is this. Once again, Josh Gordon, how about this? Maybe Josh Gordon just didn't want to show up the first few days of camp, and he figured, the hell with it. Hugh will let it go because he always does. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This team, I can even see it in the way that they were listening to him when he was trying to speak in front of a large group. They were looking at him like, just get this over with.
Yeah, they don't buy his BS because they've heard it for now 3 years.
And it is BS. I mean, I'm thinking, now I've heard some good motivational speeches that scared the crap out of me and made me change what I was thinking instantly. All right? And those are kind of legend and lore on radio and YouTube. You can find those and listen to what a real motivational speech is. And it better be, if you don't want to freaking go play with the IGA Slow Break League or in the Hyper Building with the intramurals.
Yeah, but remember this. They are the IGA Slow Break League. I mean, that's the Cleveland Browns are the team that everybody else threatens their guys with.
But this is one of the most respected football franchises. I mean, the Browns, Jim Brown and those guys that built this franchise, Paul Brown. I mean, what is happening right now? Now I understand it. I really didn't understand it, and I just figured, just ineptness. Teams go through down years. This team is going to stay down as long as this organization continues to do what it's doing. Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I didn't coin that phrase, but it's often used. And this is exactly what's happening in Cleveland right now. They need to clean house before episode 2 of this show comes on.
Yeah, but I hope they don't because it makes it entertaining.
Oh, well, it makes the show entertaining. But I'm fearful for Baker Mayfield now. I don't think he's going to get the coaching and training he needs to develop into what his talents are. I mean, I like this guy. This guy's got charisma. He's got charm. He's got leadership. I love the RV deal where he's going out and staying in the RV. That was unique and fun. I mean, he's seeing the right things. He's conducting himself well. My whole interpretation of this kid, based on what we heard about him in college, has flipped 360 degrees. This guy is the future of this franchise. And they better get somebody in there that can develop this kid and teach him leadership principles because this coaching staff has no leadership principles whatsoever.
Yeah, and there's been almost 100 years of NFL football, and he is the least successful head coach in history, and they brought him back.
All I can do is laugh at that. You know, it's like Forrest Gump used to say, stupid is as stupid does. Isn't it?
Yeah, and I get mad at the Bengals because I'm a Bengals fan. But the problem here is, at least with Marvin Lewis, you could say that he has been to the playoffs 7 times and 5 of the last 7 years. There is at least a small defense for it.
Right. There's a hope. There's a hope that maybe one day they'll break through. But but with this, watching the first episode, and I get it's the first episode, But I saw nothing here that gave me any encouraging feeling that the Browns, I think 5 wins is a stretch for this football team.
Oh, yeah, they're done.
They're shit.
Done. I mean, the only way they get that, and this is the question. Todd Haley made the comment how he turned down 8 other jobs.
Yeah,
now,
I heard that.
My question is this. Did he turn down those 8 other jobs because he knows he's going to get to be the head coach here before the year is over?
Yeah, but like I said, I don't think he's the answer to their problems either, truthfully.
No, he's not. But what I'm saying is, and this is the problem here. You bring in Todd Haley, and I think Todd Haley's intention is he's going to be the head coach. So if that's his intention, what makes you think that I don't think right now, if I'm Todd Haley, I'm just waiting to be the head coach. This guy just cut his own throat on national TV.
He's cutting. He's right. He's committing suicide on national TV. Is what he's doing. And as far as Todd Haley, what Todd Haley right now is what we call he's the cream of the crop. Okay, he's the cream of the crop, not the cream of the crop. He's the cream of the crop.
Yeah, he's put himself in a position where he's the main assistant, where the other assistants aren't very good and the head coach is bad.
Oh, I made my wife watch it with me this morning. I said, take a read on this and see if you're reading the same thing. Because I watched it yesterday, then I talked to you about it, and I said, we got to talk about this. And then I watched it again this morning to make sure I was not just being emotional. And I saw worse crap the second time than I did the first time. And I'm thinking, these guys can't coach your way out of a paper bag. And this is a $1 million staff, multi-million-dollar staff. I get any NFL coaching staff is a multi-million-dollar staff. And
there's a lot of them that are coaching that don't have a clue what they're doing. They're just there because of who they know or who their dad was, which is Baker Mayfield's quarterback coach, Ken Zampese's dad, Ernie, was an NFL assistant coaching legend, and that's why he's gotten jobs. He's never played quarterback at a high level. He's never done much of anything except been Ernie Zampese's son, and he's still a coach. Todd Haley's a guy that had what I think is a Hall of Fame quarterback when he retires in Ben Roethlisberger, and he can't get along with him. I mean, and when you look at Roethlisberger and you look at Baker Mayfield, they have a lot of similarities, the way they play and the intensity they play with. So my guess is they're going to clash at some point.
First off, we don't think Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback. We know Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Now, you never know with Hall of Fame voters, though.
Unlike T.O., he'll probably get on a first ballot. So,
well, he should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
He should be a first. Yeah, he is a first ballot Hall of Fame.
And T.O. should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah, but you know what? Robert Brazil should have too, and it took 30 years for Robert Brazil.
Right, but T.O. sabotaged himself. We already talked about that, so we're not going to rehash that mess. But if I was Cleveland right now and watched that episode, I'd probably, as if they did it on the Colts, I'd probably just as disillusioned. Although I think the Colts have a good coaching staff now, I just think their previous GM dug them such a hole that they can't get out of it. It's going to take years for Ballard and the Colts to get out of the hole that the previous leadership.
Well, and if you're the Bengals and the Ravens and the Steelers, y'all can high-five each other because it's going to be a while before any of you have to worry about being last place.
Yeah, exactly. You all got 2 wins this year because they ain't going to beat any of those teams. Now, the only hope is this. I think Baker Mayfield looks to me, the way he carried himself in the first episode, again, we haven't seen contact, we haven't seen game pressure, we haven't seen anything, but I just, you know it because you're a quarterback coach, Mike, and I felt good about Baker Mayfield. I felt much better about him after watching him, his mannerisms, his action, his confidence, his poise, just in how he was being conducted.
Yeah, and then the bad thing is this. On our draft show, when they picked him first and everybody freaked out, he should have been the first quarterback taken, I think. The problem is, where he went, he has dust written all over it.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he's in the most difficult situation to win in situation in the NFL right now. And there is so much weight on this kid's shoulders now to produce. Thanks to Johnny Manziel, thanks to all the other failed quarterbacks who've come.
And now you have to ask yourself, with 20-some different starting quarterbacks in the 20 years they've been back, is this really 20 guys that were bust? Or is this just guys that were thrown in a situation you can't win?
Yeah, I mean, who owns and runs the Browns?
The Haslams. But my thing is this: if you look back, they're not football people. They're just rich white guys that have a lot of money that bought a team.
Well, you see, there is a problem. I mean, I give Cuban credit. At least Cuban, who owns the Mavericks, knows something about basketball. And there's guys out there that know the game.
Well, let's face it, even if he doesn't know basketball, he's got Dirk Nowitzki. So he's going to be fine. The problem is in football, if your organization is not sound, you got to have 53 good football players. It's not like basketball where I can show up and have 2 or 3 studs and be fine.
Right. Yeah. I know.
Put it like this. When LeBron James left Cleveland the first time, they were done. They're going to be done this time because if they knew what they were doing at the top, they would have been more prepared for it. They had younger players. I just don't buy any of this. It's Cleveland. I mean, outside of the Cleveland Indians, the rest of them are a joke right now, and the Cleveland Browns have been a joke for a while. They had Tim Couch in 2002, who had a great season, got into the playoffs, but got hurt before the playoffs. They brought in a guy by the name of Kelly Holcomb, who played well in the playoff game, but they blew a huge lead against Pittsburgh. The next year, Couch was not the starter, and he should have been. I think they ruined Tim Couch. I think Tim Couch would have been a good quality NFL quarterback, but they just screwed him over. And now, if we're going to talk about inept organizations, that makes this a very easy switch here to go talk about the NCAA.
Doesn't it? Boy, did they.
I mean, right now, the Cleveland Browns may run the NCAA from what I've seen, and Hugh Jackson may be the new president. What's your take on what came out yesterday?
I don't even know how to formulate it. I mean, it's all over the board. It was ill-timed, ill-conceived, ill-thought out. It's why you don't let Condoleezza Rice run a commission on fixing college sports just because she's a member at Augusta and a former Secretary of Defense or State, whatever she was. It doesn't give her the authority or power to know what to do here. I think the NCAA took a big step backwards yesterday rather than a step forward.
Well, I just think they took a lateral step, and they tried to make it look like they were trying to do something.
There are so many issues, and I listened to Jay Billis. I picked up Jay Billis' feed on this, and, I respect Jay. Jay's a pretty good basketball guy for ESPN and really has an understanding of the game and equates it out well. And, he said this is just – I think he didn't use the word disaster, but he kind of implicated that this was not thought out. This was just a knee-jerk reaction. The most poignant things here, obviously, are, number one, it comes out with the headlines read. They're going to allow players, high school and college players, who can retain agency, enter the draft. If they're not drafted, they can come back into college. Now, Jay makes a great point. Why do we care if they're drafted? If they're drafted, why can't they still come back? Why, the whole thing about the NCAA, why are we eliminating the kids that were drafted and say, you know what, I didn't get drafted by the right team, I didn't get high enough, or I'm not thinking I just want to go take a look. But if we're all about education, why would the NCAA not want to push everybody back into education? So if you're drafted, you're out.
Yeah, that's the conversation we had yesterday, because that's the thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, why limit? And then all of a sudden this word I start reading about, this weird word keeps popping up, and it's elite. Okay, elite players. And I started, elite players, okay, yeah, okay. Well, what defines an elite player? Well, unbeknownst to USA Basketball, the NCAA says they're going to have a camp, a non-sanctioned or sanctioned camp, not a non-sanctioned camp, which means the shoe companies can't be involved. And they're going to have USA Basketball rate college. They're going to invite 1,100 seniors, 1,000 juniors, and X number of high school players, I guess, or something. I don't know. They don't even know what they're going to do. But they're going to be ranked and USA Basketball comes out yesterday and says, we didn't know anything about this. We knew nothing about this. We're not equipped to rank players. We don't have the manpower, the capacity to do that. We're about promoting basketball as a world game. And having our people represent the game on a world basis. we're not. So it's almost like they didn't even communicate with USA basketball. And so the biggest news of this whole thing is just players can now hire an agent if they're approved by the NCAA. You have to now the agent has to be approved by the NCAA. Any player can, any elite player. So if you're the 101st ranked player, and Jay Billis made a great point with a player from Wake Forest who said, he's the 101st ranked player from Wake Forest, and he mentioned a name, I can't remember the guy's name, but then all of a sudden he develops himself in the second year or halfway through the season, and also he becomes a top 20 prospect to the NBA. But because he's the 101st ranked player, he can't get representation without risking foregoing his college scholarship and college athletic scholarship. Why put numbers on it?
The thing that stands out to me is them trying to de-emphasize AAU basketball. And I think it's going to be a disaster for them because now they're talking about taking that away, and the NCAA will bring back community jamboree-style events, force coaches to evaluate players while they play with their high school team. And the NCAA is also starting massive regional camps that include up to 2,000 athletes. It's obvious the NCAA is biting off so much more than they can chew that it's funny. I mean, the creation of the regional camps, I don't think they understand how big of a gigantic undertaking that is. From selecting the players, the coaches, the athletes. There's also a good chance, I think, with this, that players that are under the radar are going to slip through the cracks in a setting like this. A coach can't even nominate a player he likes because he doesn't want another school to see them. So, so I just
the 2,000 players were the 1,100 seniors and the 1,000 juniors. They're going to be invited, recommended by their coaches or college coaches to attend these camps. They're going to be invited. Now, like I said, they made these bylaws or rules and just dumped it on NBA and USA. What they did was, in July, they shortened the period of non-scholastic contact time. Non-scholastic contact time means basically the AAU. And the coaches being able to attend the big three, Under Armour's camp or tournament, Adidas tournament in Vegas, and then the Peach Basket tournament that Nike puts on. And most of the coaches talked about the Peach Basket tournament, Nike's big tournament in South Carolina. And they let that go, but they narrowed that window down. So basically, they can't have all three camps now because they'll be stepping on each other's toes. So what's going to happen is, if they continue to try and do it, this is a dilemma now for Adidas and for Under Armour, is that are they going to go and run their tournaments knowing that probably a third or half the players aren't going to come to their tournaments because they're going to go to the Nike tournament. So you see, there's this thing called, there's 130 days eligible for coaches to recruit by the NCAA's rules. They didn't expand those days. They just spread them out differently. Coaches can now recruit, some in April, some in May, or May is off limits, some in June. All right, they just spread those 130 days out, and they narrowed. They said we have to take them somewhere. So they use a rationalization, which is actually to squeeze the shoe companies, is what they're doing. They narrowed that window in July, which is the big month of all the big camps. They narrowed that window down to 2 weeks. So basically, you can't run 3 tournaments in 2 weeks because they usually those ran every weekend for 3 straight weekends. Under Armour's, and now Puma's trying to get into the game as well, and asking permission to start a 4th camp. But they're basically pissing on AAU because AAU is starting to have a big foothold in what's going on.
And the problem is this: are we really that sure high schools will be any better when it comes to guiding a player through the recruiting process? I mean, grassroots teams, AAU teams, are built for that. Instead of embracing all the goodwill the shoe company leagues have been given to the game, the NCAA has decided to basically demonetize them while still accepting their money for multi-million-dollar school apparel contracts.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
This is biting the hand that feeds you, too.
Yeah, exactly. They're pissing on the hand that's feeding them. And, I don't know. This is just, and we're still diving into it because everybody's still breaking it down. They also went into the thing now for the first time now, secondary things on this list of rules they brought out was the NCAA now will accept outside investigations into the impropriety of universities and the actions of universities. They also are going to hold universities and presidents of universities accountable for the actions of the athletic department. I thought that was always in place. I mean, isn't the NCAA a byproduct of what the Council of University Presidents put together to help them govern the sporting end of college athletics? Isn't that how that worked? Am I
you
missing
would think.
Something there?
Yeah, I mean, you would think. And the only thing all this stuff has done is allow the NCAA to give itself more power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what they've done. They've given themselves more power, but they've doled out the responsibilities. They delegated the responsibilities. And really, the NCAA, the NBA has not approved any of this yet. This is not going to happen immediately because the NBA still has to say, yeah, we'll change our rules about one-and-done players or about
yeah, so don't you think, Steve, that maybe the NCAA maybe should have got with the NBA and the United States basketball before making anything like this? Because all this is moot if the other people don't agree with it.
From what I've read, and I read CBS Sports, I read ESPN, I listened to Billis, I listened to Adam Silverman, Wojciechowski, Adrian Wojciechowski, read his article. The NBA has had no part in this whatsoever. I mean, and this all hinges on the NBA. But, you know, and then there was the clause that Billis brought up a good point that the thing that the colleges were coming back and saying that was wrong with this was if, say, Steve Risley decides he wants to go try and go declare for the draft, all right, he gets an agent, he goes and does it, he doesn't get drafted. Well, the rule says you have until 5 p.m. the day after the draft to inform your university that you're coming back. So if the draft occurs on a Thursday night, I have until 5 p.m. on Friday to let Indiana know, I didn't get drafted, I'm coming back. Well, the thing about that is when a player announces, you know, Indiana may say, well, you know, we're not going to have Risley. We're going to fill a scholarship.
Yeah.
Okay, we're just going to give – so I say at 5 o'clock, and I say, I'm coming back. Well, Steve, we don't have a scholarship for you anymore. We thought you were gone, and, you know, you didn't like where you went. You didn't get drafted. Sorry, but we gave your scholarship away. So Billis makes a good point. Why does the NCAA say, okay, fine, in that case, any player who declares and doesn't get drafted is free to go to any university he wants without penalty, without sitting out a year? You know, well, if you give my scholarship away, then I'm free to go wherever I want next season and play for whoever I want to.
So what is the NCAA going to do in that situation? Or is there nothing written into this for that?
There's nothing written into it about it. That's a question Bill has brought up. That's an issue that they haven't addressed yet. What do they do if, say, Risley leaves, says, you know what, I thought I had a great junior year or great sophomore year. I'll go ahead and get an agent. You know, I got invited to the camp. Unlike Phil Eisenbarger, who didn't get invited to the camp, so he can't even do what I'm doing because he wasn't considered an elite player. And maybe we'll use Phil, and maybe I'm not the elite player. It's not the point. The point is just making an example of this. So I go, I come back, and then I'm thinking, okay, I had a great camp. All of a sudden, I'm not drafted. Okay? So then by 5 o'clock the next day, I have to let the university know I'm coming back. And at that point, it falls off the cliff. You know,
yeah, and the thing is this, the way they've got this worded from the research I've done, only 6 players would even met this criteria this last year.
Yeah, it's a PR move by the NCAA, again, to deflect the problems that they're into with the FBI and the cheating and scandals going on, the under-the-table payments. They're trying to look like they're taking some kind of action without giving anything up or doing anything. And it's I don't know what to make of it. The NCAA's got issues.
Yeah, and when you look at this about allowing elite high school players and any college player to be represented by an agent, it says here the evaluation is to be done by the NBA Undergraduate Advisory Committee, pending a decision by the NBA and the NBA PA, and they haven't even brought this up to them.
No, they haven't even talked to USA Basketball and the NBA PA. They have not. They came out and said, we know nothing. But USA put an article out and said, we're not into this. We are not equipped to do this.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think that causes, which I haven't seen anybody bring up yet, is the fact that July 1st, before your senior year, you can get an agent. Now, that means agents are going to be all over these guys.
Right.
While all these schools are all over these guys. So I think what you do is you make cheating maybe even more pervasive then.
Sure, because agents are going to flip guys' money to keep these guys happy. They're going to make sure
this agent works with Adidas, so he wants them to go to Adidas school.
Right. It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. Because if they allow them to get agents after July 1, then it's like, okay, Risley's a top prospect now. We're going to get him. I got an agent. Okay, my agent's going to fund money to me somehow under the table because it's an investment in him. Because as soon as I get out and get drafted, sign a big contract, he's going to get 10% of my money for the rest of my life, most likely. Okay, correct. So he's going to make sure I'm fat and happy. So I stay with him because if I get better and somebody else comes in and says, I can give you a better deal, he doesn't want to lose me. So he's going to make sure I got a nice car to drive. He's going to make sure that my family's taken care of and can get the games. I think it just breeds more cheating. I don't think they've thought this through at all. But then again,
they had Condoleezza Rice in charge of it.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm sure she's a respectable woman. I'm not
sure she is. There's no politicians that aren't respectable.
Yeah, but I just think that this was ill-conceived. It was a rubber stamp thing. It's a cover-up and a scam by the NCAA to deflect the issues of profit sharing, of the scandal that's going on in the sport. All they did again was the NCAA. If you look at this, what we talked about the first time we had this discussion. They were blaming the shoe companies before. Remember, for all the issues in college basketball, they were deflecting and blaming shoe companies. Now they're just dumping it on the college presidents, on the NCAA, and on USA basketball or NBA and USA basketball. And like I said, NBA can come out and say, we don't care what they do. We're not touching this. We're sticking hard and fast to our rules. Billis kind of insinuated it'd be 2 years before the NCAA or NBA made a change. He doesn't think they'll jump all over this and get on behind this right away. So all this stuff that they're doing is going to be a moot point anyway, because the NBA is going to say, "Well, do what you want to do, but we're not going to be a part of that. We're not going to rate your players for you." And USA Basketball has already come out and said we can't do it.
The other problem is this: with getting rid of the AAU basketball, I don't know if you've got a small school. Most people have heard of Milan, Indiana. Milan's a small school in Indiana. If you're a stud player, you can go over to Cincinnati and play on a really good AAU team. It's a great competition and maybe get a scholarship. If you're limited to just playing in Milan, Indiana against North Decatur, South Ripley, Lawrenceburg, South Dearborn, your chances to get a Division I scholarship are pretty much gone just because of the competition you're playing against.
Sure.
So you limit what a kid that maybe goes to a small school, you limit his opportunity to get a scholarship.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think inherently the AAU, and I coached in AAU basketball for several years, and we had pretty strict rules we had to live by. I mean, we were in Greensboro, North Carolina. You had to wear long pants to coach. Now, that seems minor, but in Greensboro, North Carolina, it was like 100 degrees. You're out in these hot gyms, not air conditioning, coaching in long pants. I mean, AAU inherently is more good than bad. Where it got kind of bad was the elite AAU, where they started working with the shoe companies a lot. But, we had a Division II AAU team. We finished sixth in the country with a school team, not an all-star team. All the kids that were on my team were all going to the same high school. And the high school coach managed to go and screw them up royally and never got out of the sectional with them. That's another story. Including having two Mr. Basketballs in Zach Urban and Gary Harris. Still couldn't get out of the sectional with them. While we coached him to sixth place in the national tournament. But anyway, that's another story. But inherently the AAU does a lot of good things for youth sports and youth basketball. And again, they're driving out AAU for what amounts to, like you said, a handful of players. And still, when the shoe companies all fund the NCAA tournament in a large degree, provide immense support in technology, in education, in clothing, everything. Money given to athletic departments. I mean, why do you think Indiana wears Adidas? Because Adidas pays out the ass to have Indiana wear Adidas. So that's a big dump of money. And most of these shoe contracts, these shoe companies, fund over 50% of the coach's salaries.
Yeah, I think the problem in the end with all of this is the NCAA wanted to appear that it was proactive in addressing the corruption uncovered by the FBI. The problem is that the real reason the sport has so much corruption is because of the amateurism model that the NCAA still clings to. Now, some of these changes, I think some of these changes will benefit the athletes, but this is not the radical change that the sport needs by any measure. There remains questions at every turn just how many athletes will be impacted by the decision to let undrafted players who are invited to the combine return to school. How will the changes to the recruiting calendar affect under-the-radar players, which I still think those guys are going to be affected worse than anybody. And our high schools really better equipped to give exposure and competition than grassroots leagues. I mean, the NCAA will tout yesterday's announcement as a victory for cleaning up the sport. But as long as amateurism remains college basketball's model, there's always going to be a black market.
Right. There's nothing amateur about college athletics anymore.
It's been a long time since there has been.
Right, it is. It has been. I mean, it's the football and basketball, and even now baseball. The College World Series has become a big entity in its own thing too. I mean, the major sports are just they're not amateur anymore. The shoe companies, the clothing companies, the apparel companies, the equipment companies, everybody's got involved in these things, and they're not amateur. And it goes back to my whole methodology of finding some way to do a little bit of profit sharing with the players. I don't think you need to pay them while they're in school, but I think you incentivize them to get their degree. And you use that profit sharing model to incentivize them to get their degree. If they get their degree, then they can be part of the profit sharing program. But you have to get your degree first. And that's an incentivization. But sitting there and saying if you don't call back by 5 o'clock or this time, I mean, you lose your scholarship. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's the NCAA.
Yeah, it's the NCAA. These guys.
That's what they're best at. They're best at creating messes.
We let them get away with it. But this is going to come out more as more people break this down because this only happened really 24 hours.
This is the one thing. We've had this conversation before where you talk about them unionizing. I think giving high school or college players, especially college players, the ability to have agents could backfire on them because if you get an agent that all of a sudden is working with 10 or 15 of the best players, there's your chance to unionize it.
I told you we had this discussion off air last night, Mike, and I think, and I don't know what the model's going to look like, but somebody's going to figure out how to unionize college athletes, and how to bond them. I take the word unionization out of it, bond them to where they become a voice of one, and they become to have the ability to say, fine, we're not playing in your tournament this year. We just none of the players are going to show up, and that's an extreme case, and that's a metaphor.
I think the problem there is this: you've only really got one or two guys on most teams that really have a chance to go to the NBA. I don't think you could ever get all 12 guys to do that because guys 9 and 10 or 11 might all of a sudden become starters if those two guys leave. But I think it did open the door where a creative agent may be able to do something.
No, I think so. I think it will create that opportunity. And much like, and we talked about this off air, not in the same fashion, much like what Curt Flood did, Curt Flood sacrificed his entire baseball career to unionize baseball and create free agency. And he paid the biggest price of anybody to do it, but he found a way to get it done. Now, will there be a new Curt Flood in college athletics? Will it manifest itself in an agent, a lawyer, a player? I don't know, but I think it's naive to think that it won't potentially happen.
Well, I think the problem for the NCAA is they just left the door wide open to make it more possible to happen.
Right. They're grasping at straws and losing control of the game, and it's only a matter of time before the college presidents get fed up with it, and just the whole thing gets revamped to the point where the NCAA becomes a lot less relevant than it is right now. And it doesn't have the ability to make governing laws because the laws and rules we're making right now are not very well thought out.
All right, Steve, I think that what we have discovered on this show is that Hugh Jackson probably should just go become the president of the NCAA.
Well, that would narrow it down to one potential screw-up for the season and give the Browns hope.
The Browns have been screwing up who their head coach was for years. So.
Yeah, we close on that. I go back to that.
I don't think they can go any further downhill.
No,
but tomorrow, we do have an interesting guest. The show will come up. We're going to record it. The show will be out about 1:30. We will have XFL's new commissioner. Of course, they're restarting the league after, about a 17, 18-year hiatus. The XFL commissioner, Oliver Luck, who was a quarterback in the NFL. Really, he's the guy that once I saw that they had Oliver Luck on board as the XFL commissioner, that's what made me take the XFL seriously.
Yeah, he brought legitimacy to the program because we all know that Vince McMahon is the XFL and championship wrestling. I think the model in championship
and he brings legitimacy too because almost everything he's touched outside of that first XFL try has worked.
Gold. Yeah, it works, and it works well. I mean, certainly the WWE is one of the most watched spectator sports in all of America, sadly. Although it is entertainment. He says it's entertainment.
You know what? That's what people want to be entertained.
Right.
I mean, come on. When you live in a world we live in today where all you hear is bad news,
all for it.
Entertain me. And you know what? The NFL, I think, as a product, I think the quality of play has dropped. I think that the caring about the fan has dropped. And if there's ever a time to pull this off in the spring of 2020, I think it's now. So make sure you guys come back and listen to us tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck will be on the show. Make sure you mark that down. And then Monday, we've got a man who just wrote a book about, basically the exploitation of athletes in college basketball. Former North Carolina basketball star Rashad McCants, also played in the NBA, will be on to talk about his new book that will be coming out August the 28th. So make sure you check us out Monday on that. But tomorrow, 1:30, Oliver Luck, XFL Commissioner, here on Survive and Advance. All right, Steve, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And I want to let everybody know you can follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth or at Survive the Magic. Go check out our Facebook group on the Grueling Truth. Make sure you hit us up there. I think that's all I got. I don't even think I have another show for a couple days except for tomorrow when we'll be back with Oliver Luck. So I'll get to give my voice a rest now, Steve, as will you. I want to remind everybody we are now available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.